Hello, YouTube. Did you miss me? No? Okay. Anyways, I've had an adventure lately. The reason I did not post a video after Game 2 of the Leafs Bruins series and immediately after Game 3 is because we had some bell issues. Our internet and TV all went down about a week and a day ago, and it took probably at least a few hours in grand total of me being on hold on the phone with them, 3 different visits from technicians before they finally sorted it out, and not to mention waiting in line at the Bell store for like an hour to get a new modem, which wasn't even the problem. But so that was we were kind of living in the 90s with no internet and not even any TV to watch because it's all based on the internet with the Fibes. So unfortunately I missed that game 2, and it looked like an exciting one despite the Leafs loss, but I wasn't able to go to my parents again to watch game 3 like we did for game 1, so I could at least see the next game. So game 2, obviously I said I didn't get to see it. I did watch a ton of the highlights because it was a big brouhaha. Here's my thoughts and opinions on the stuff that went down in game 2. There's a number of things I could talk about here. First of all, the NHL has gone this direction of, oh, we want our skilled players to have all this room and time and space to make dazzling hockey plays and attract all these fans, and we want to ice the best game on earth. And so there's a million penalties called in the regular season, and power plays and penalty killing factor in so much. But then still in the playoffs, that doesn't happen. The whistles are mostly put away unless it's something glaring. And that's fine. That's the way I want the hockey. I don't want all the power plays and the penalty killing. I want the players to fight for everything. I don't want all the free passes on power plays. I'm fine with that. But it's still such a discrepancy. Like, which way do you want it, NHL? Like, which way? Like, just pick one and go with it. So that's kind of what pissed me off about game 2, is that, okay, they put the whistles away. And then Jake DeBrusk ran around like a jackass, throwing a knee-on-knee hit on Kadri, getting in his face every other second, and didn't get penalized for any of it, hardly. And then near the end of the game, he runs Patrick Marleau into the stanchion, and Kadri finally loses his mind after being the target of most of his wrath the whole game, and cross-checks him in the head. And it comes down later on that he's been suspended for the rest of the goddamn series. It's ridiculous. The refs had it in their power to stop all that in the bud when they saw him running around like an idiot, and take matters into their own hands and say, okay, we're going to stop this. But no, they let it go, and then Kadri finally lost it, and he cross-checked him in the head. So, what? You're going to let everything else go? You didn't even get him. You got him in the helmet, for Christ's sake, and DeBrusk laid on the ice like a pussy. And, oh, he's back in the lineup for next game after it looked so bad. You didn't even get him in the face. You got him in the back of the helmet. And my problem with that is that in one of the other series, Joe Thornton elbowed some guy from Vegas, I don't know who it was, in the head, like full-on headshot. Nothing against Joe Thornton. I love Joe Thornton. But way more blatant than Kadri's cross-check. And he only got a game. Kadri's suspended for the rest of the series, no matter however many more games it goes. I'm left scratching my head. If that was the case, I wish he'd really hit him in the face and at least taken some teeth out or injured him for the rest of the series so the guy couldn't even play. It's ridiculous. So I don't mind that type of hockey, dirty in your face kind of hockey. I love it. That's the only kind of hockey I knew how to play because I had no skill with the puck. That's the only thing I could do was hit people. But to have it so lopsided in Boston's favor and not call them for anything, and then when Kadri makes a cross check to the head, that doesn't even hit the guy in the head. It hits him in his helmet, and he gets this shit. It's ridiculous. So I blame that fully on whoever was officiating that game. They had it in their power to make sure none of that happened. And that's the only way Boston wins games, to be honest. Let's be honest here. They want to play Boston style hockey, physical style hockey, which just basically means they get to break the rules, and they don't get called on it. So, and that's why the Leafs can make them look so stupid. when they are able to work their game plan on them is because they just use their speed to go around all the pylons and score all the goals. So that game too left a sour taste in my mouth, and I really wish they'd had a guy on their team like a old school Wendell Clark, or even one of their more recent. I wish they had never let go of Matt Martin so he could go out and beat the Christ out of somebody. But regardless, they lost 4-1, just as they won the first game 4-1. And despite that, it was more of a closer game than the final score kind of indicated. Then for game 3, the scene shifted to Toronto, and it was much more like game 1. Not quite to that extent, but the Leafs dictated the play a lot more. They were able to set the pace, get their speed going, and really, just like in game 1, like they kind of took the physical game more to the Bruins. I saw Hyman even knock over Chara once, which you don't see him go down too often. And yeah, they were just as aggressive as the Bruins were, and that's not normally their style. And to complement that, they had their speed game going, and they pulled out a 3-2 win. It was tense. let's just say that, as they all are this time of year. But the first period went scoreless. Freddie looked in the zone again. He's been great. And then all of the scoring happened in the second period. Trevor Moore, the fourth line's played great all series. They've been chipping in with a lot of effort, and even the odd goal here and there. He opened the scoring in the second about 2 minutes in, but Boston answered right back about a minute later and evened things up at 1. But then in the middle of the period, the Leafs got a power play. Matthews tucked in a neat little pass at the side of the net, just over Rask's pad, and then about few minutes left in the period, they got another power play opportunity, and Janssen finished off a pretty little passing play with a nice little move in front and a flip to the backhand, and he put it up high over Rask's glove, and then the Bruins answered. They scored a late goal, which are always killers. Leafs got away with it in this instance, but a minute and a half left maybe, and the Bruins made it 3-2, and then that set up a really tense nail biter of a third period. The Leafs did get bottled up from time to time, but they didn't fall into that defensive shell that a lot of teams do in the third period when they're trying to defend a league, which always backfires. They always say, like, keep on going, push the pace, keep on attacking, don't sit back because you're going to get burned. And the Leafs are guilty of that a lot of the time, but they weren't last night. They for as much as they could, they tried to push the pace, but they did get bottled up from time to time, especially near the end when Boston pulled the goalie. But they held in there. The defense didn't make any glaring errors, and in that last minute and a half or whatever it was, they had some big blocks and some good defensive zone coverage, and right as time was expiring, Marner blocked 2 shots in a row from Pasternak at the blue line, and that sealed the win. So it was a huge win. It was the Leafs showing that they can push back against Boston. They're not intimidated by them. They can throw hits just like the Bruins can if they want to, and they just got. I hope they can take confidence from the 2 wins, and even from game 2, because Kadri's sticking up for his teammates, and the 4-1 loss not being as bad as it seemed. I hope all these 3 games they can continue to take the confidence out of it and do what they did in those 2 wins again in Toronto tomorrow night, and hopefully take a stranglehold on this series. But either way, there's been a lot of close series so far. And of course, there's been a couple that aren't so close, but this one I think is the first 2 games were both 4-1 scores, but they were closer than that. Like the games, they weren't 4-1 like, oh, it was over a long time ago kind of games. They were hard fought all the while, and I expect nothing less for the rest of the series. But I'd like a Leafs blowout. That'd be great. It'd be better for my heart. I am in my 40s now, so we have to consider that. But either way, I'm pumped. The Leafs are up 2-1. I hope and pray they can go up 3-1. Not saying that they can't blow a 3-1 series lead, but they're not likely to, but yeah, I got my fingers crossed, and I can't wait for tomorrow night, and we will see what the night brings us. Have a good one.